You're listening to Bloomberg Businessweek with Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
I want to take a look at shares of National Cinemedia. They finished higher yesterday by 11.8%. This after the in-theater advertising network reported third quarter revenue of $69.6 million. That topped the average analyst estimate of $54 million. The company operates the largest cinema advertising platform in the U.S., so that means they've got more than 20,000 screens in more than 1,500 theaters in nearly 200 markets. This is a small cap, Barry. They've got a market value of about $435 million. We are joined right now by the company's CEO, Tom Lesinski, who's on Zoom in Los Angeles. Tom, good to have you with us this afternoon. How are you?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me. There's a lot to be excited about in Hollywood.
Yeah.
As you can imagine.
Well,
the strike alone, go. I'll let you start.
Yeah, that's what I want to start with, actually, is the end to the strike. Honestly, so what does that mean for your business?
Well, when you think about what's happened over the last, since COVID, movie theaters were effectively closed by state and local governments for 2 years. And then we had a little bit of a rally coming out of that. Then all of a sudden another Writers Guild strike and then the actors strike. So we think the final speed bumps are past all of us. Getting this labor agreement in place is something everyone's been waiting for. We're happy that it's happening now, which will enable a lot of movies to get finished and get completed and scheduled for next year. There hasn't been much of an impact on us actually so far with the strike, but I can tell you that in next year's release schedule,
it's about the pipeline, right?
The pipeline, 3 movies got moved out. You'll see in the next 30 to 60 days, as all the major studios re-ramp production, how many things will stick in the year and what will move and won't move. So it'll probably take maybe a month or two to understand where everybody is, and there'll be some moving back and forth. But I think, honestly, for the first time in a long time, there's no doom and gloom in sight. The streaming piece of it is behind us, honoring the theatrical window by the major studios. There's been a lot that this industry has endured over the last 4 years. And I think the third quarter, not just our results, but just the admissions level in the third quarter, with records being set that go all the way back to 2016, the cinema business is certainly capable of a resurgence, and everyone's excited about what's going to happen in the next year or two.
Hey Tom, Barry Ritholtz here. So I like that you're optimistic about the future, but I have to ask about how successful these giant tentpole movies have been: Oppenheimer, Barbie, Top Gun, and now the Taylor Swift concert film. Aren't you looking for more steady attendance in theaters and not this sort of sporadic, hey, this is a big event? How do you plan around what's going to be a home run? I think a lot of people were surprised by both Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Yeah, so it's a good question, actually. We would prefer, and our advertisers would prefer, consistency every week, every month. The way we sell our platform, by the way, is we sell the entire platform for the entire week. So we're not necessarily just selling one movie. We will take the big hits, but we prefer the consistency going back to 2019. Having said that, when something like Barbie comes out, it reignites consumers and advertisers because it becomes part of the culture. So, for example, on Taylor Swift, we found out about that movie, and in 3 weeks, we sold out all the inventory.
Wow.
And it was to the number 1 or number 2 advertiser in the top 10 categories, including big brands like United, Burger King, State Farm, and on and on and on. So the zeitgeist nature of Taylor Swift, Barbie, Oppenheimer does help reignite interest in cinema, because obviously we're not at the very top of the totem pole when it comes to share of voice in the media space. Hopefully next year and 25 we will get not just consistency but also some blockbusters thrown in. But the blockbusters really do help because everyone talks about it.
Hey Tom, can you just talk about your how these ads are sold? And when we think about online advertising, we think CPM, cost per thousand. How do you sell these ads? And like, if you sell an ad, is it based on what you think the number of seats and butts and seats are going to be, or does it change based on ticket sales?
No, it's based on what we forecast the business will be. So we actually forecast the business a year ahead of time because we're selling in the upfront. So when you think about it, we actually have to go through every movie by month and figure out what we think it's going to do, oftentimes a year from now. And about 70% of our business is sold in the upfront. So we have to forecast, probably more so than almost anybody does, because we're not just forecasting individual movies like a studio does. We're forecasting every movie. And based on that, we will promise and guarantee an audience to our advertisers. So we really have to spend a lot of time being precise about it. And it is on a CPM basis. And since you mentioned CPMs, we are, with the exception of probably the Super Bowl and the NBA Finals, the most expensive way you can buy advertising today. And it's partially just because it works and partially because we reach young demographic. More than 3/4 of our audience is millennial and Gen Z, which obviously is much more attractive than television is today. And when you're in that seat and the lights are off and your phone's off, we know that advertising delivers in cinema better than anywhere. We did a study recently, an attention study, that literally, if you're in a theater and you see it, our ads are 7 times more effective than digital advertising reaching millennials and 4 times more effective than television advertising. So we feel like we're in a really good spot as theaters come back and the movie business comes back with consistency. We're really in a good place. I mean, when you think about it, in 2019, our company was almost twice as large as it is today in terms of revenue. And that's when the stock price hit an all-time high. And here we are, 4+ years later. And we're finally getting back to the levels we were at in 2019 in the third quarter, really for the first time.
So Tom, you alluded to the value of younger audience, millennials and Gen Z. What's the secret of keeping their attention? How do you get their faces out of the phone? Even during previews, I see people sitting around the theater, scrolling, looking at text. You can make 100 announcements and it doesn't matter. What's your secret sauce to keep them paying attention?
Well, the secret sauce is in 2019, I renegotiated the deals with the major exhibitors to run advertising after showtime, the posted showtime, and actually in between the trailers. So one thing we did to future-proof the business model was to actually start running ads, not just before the movie starts, before the trailers, but actually after showtime and actually during and in between the trailers. So that's a key piece of it. The second thing is we do have a really effective announcement that happens that says, please turn your phones off. And when the lights go down, we have this thing called lights down inventory where it's dark in the theater. And the one time people do pry themselves away from a phone is when the lights go down and there's an announcement. So we truly have a captive audience during that time. So we're really happy with the fact that literally when people are there in the dark, they actually, for the one time in their life during the course of a day, turn their phones off. And that's not true in any other medium, whether it's digital or television. We're lucky, and awfully, sometimes it's even enforced in theaters. So we're lucky that actually it's not really a law, but it's certainly highly required. And often people will get on you, when you have your phone on in a theater. It's happened to me before even. So it's a fortunate situation for us, unlike any other medium.
Okay, so there's the unattributable quote, like half of advertising spend is wasted. The trouble is I just don't know which half that is. That kind of changed when it came to online advertising. We have 30 seconds left, Tom. Tell me about how you know it's working for you guys and for your clients.
So we have built a data and attribution business that allows us to do targeting and retargeting. We have literally hundreds of millions of data sets that we've built over time where we know who the consumers are in the theater. We know what they're doing before the movie theater, and we know what they're doing afterwards. We've proven out to dozens of advertisers that if you run an ad in a movie theater, we will make sure it works for you. And whatever metrics you're looking for, whether it's awareness building, purchases, going to the doctor, whatever your metric is, we can monitor that for you and deliver it through our NCMX research data platform. So we have data, obviously never as good as Google or as Facebook, but far better than what television has today. So it works, and we can prove that it works, and we've taken that to our consumers.
Tom Lesinski, CEO at National Cinemedia, joining us on Zoom from Los Angeles. Tom, really appreciate you taking the time.